Testing, testing. Okay. That looks like audio's coming through now. Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay, that's what that sound was. A TikTok video playing in the background. All right. I do want to check my email and see if. Okay. Okay. All right. So it looks like our audio is working. We don't have any viewers right now. Again, that is perfectly fine. We might not get any viewers really, and that's okay. This was kind of an impromptu kind of thing. So if we don't get any viewers, that's fine. You know, now that I'm all set up and ready to go, though, I did kind of want to talk a little bit about myself and my background. My name is Jordan Brown, as some of you know from the TikTok channel. Um, excuse me. Let me close that. Um, I am 30 years old. I'm currently going to school to be a cybersecurity professional. I will be earning my cybersecurity degree in December. Basically, I created a gaming computer and I really learned a lot when I did it. So that's my gaming rig right there. Sorry, that's the top of my monitor, but that's my gaming rig. I had a lot of fun doing it. Um, and I really enjoy doing it too. So I figured, hey, why not, make my own business, be able to work for myself, and I got an LLC and everything, and made everything official, and I decided I'm going to start selling some computers, and when I was setting up my Shopify store, um, I kind of had a few decisions to make. And one thing that I decided early on was, or before the store ever went live, was that I really wanted to provide a really good value for customers. I wanted to charge what I would feel good being charged myself if I was going to go buy a pre built machine from someone. And I would want high quality parts that aren't proprietary. And so that's really why I set up the site and why I made it the way I did, and why I don't have any markup on components. And I buy all of them on Amazon. So the price that I pay is the price that you pay. I have to pay sales tax regardless of where the computer is going. I have to pay sales tax on all of the parts that I purchase from Amazon. Unfortunately, I don't really know a legal way around that. So that kind of is what it is. I have to pass that cost on to the customer unless I want to make a profit on the parts, which I don't want to do that. I don't want to go down that route. Excuse me, because I feel like, I mean, anybody can order parts, right? Anybody can just go buy the parts. Um, and I'm not really providing any extra value by simply purchasing them. But I feel like the way that I could make money was just by charging a flat build fee for every computer that I make, and so that's what I'm doing. So I'm only making money off of the build fee. I'm not really making any money off shipping. Shipping was kind of one that I kind of went back and forth about, because while I could have it calculate shipping rates and everything like that, one, I would need a better Shopify subscription for that. So it might be something that I do in the future, but right now it's just $100 flat rate. I feel like that's a really fair way to do it. There are going to be times when it costs me more than $100 to ship. There's going to be times when it costs me less than $100 to ship. But my goal isn't to make a profit off of the shipping. My goal is to either offset my shipping costs or cover the shipping costs with that $100 fee. And computers are very heavy and they cost a lot of money to ship. So I feel like $100 is pretty fair to charge for it, especially since that's pretty close to what I'm probably going to be charged to ship it. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less. But I feel like a flat rate was just kind of the easiest way to do it. No matter where you are in the US, $100 flat rate. The only exceptions being that if you're local to here in Ridgecrest and you live in one of the surrounding towns here, and there's no charge for shipping, obviously, because you're within driving range. I'll go and personally deliver it to you for no extra charge. Um, so yeah, and another thing I really struggled with too was when I was making my originally, if you saw my store, you would see that I had four different options. I had bronze, silver, gold, and platinum, and I kind of wanted to do like a good, better, best kind of model. And one reason why um, I did stopped doing that, and I did the configuration options instead, which is a lot harder to set up. But I think it's worth it. The one reason why I started doing the custom configuration options is one, because that's really what I wanted to do from the start, was be able to let customers choose what they want in their PC. And two, I felt like it was less confusing for customers too, because there's slight variations in each model, the biggest things being the graphics cards, and then the platinum model, I obviously had a second NVMe in there, and I kind of like went back and forth with that, because I was like, well, what if they don't want that? What if they're happy with just the standard NVMe drive that comes in it? So that's really why I decided, I'm like, hey, if the customer wants a second NVMe, they can purchase one. If they don't want one, they don't have to get it. So that was really uh, my way of allowing the customers a choice. And again, because I don't make any profit off of the parts itself, I can feel good about offering those options, because it's not like, I'm not trying to upsell you. I don't make any extra money if you choose a 50/50 or a 50/90. It's no more or less money for me. So I feel like that's kind of a good way to do it, because I can make honest recommendations to customers without it seeming like I'm trying to upsell them. I'm just trying to make genuine, honest recommendations about what I would do in your situation, which I feel like is the best way to run a business. So let me see if I can share this real quick. I'm going to try sharing this to TikTok if I can. I don't see TikTok as an option. That's okay. I will just have to leave it the way it is. So we still don't have any viewers. That is okay. Let me go back onto TikTok real quick and go to my videos. Yeah, so my video link should be up on TikTok. Okay, yes, that's fine. I realize it's going to take a while to actually get followers and create a social media presence. So that's definitely a big thing that I'm trying to do, is make a social media presence. Just be there to answer questions, and just kind of just be chill, and not really be pushy about making a sale or anything like that. That's I don't like doing that. I don't like it when other content creators do that. And my goal is to be better than that. Not better than them, but better than that practice. I don't think I'm better than anybody else. But I think that we can learn from business practices that we don't like, and just choose to not do them. I mean, as long as it's an unfair practice, I don't feel like we have to do it. Let's see here. Okay. All right. So just trying to find stuff to talk about, really. So why don't I talk about my rig a little bit, and why I went with the components I went with. So I kind of talked about this in my TikTok video, but if you haven't seen that, I'll just start with Windows. I went with Windows 11 Pro, and the reason I did that wasn't just to have the Pro version. It was because I like to run virtual machines, and I wanted BitLocker. So obviously, Hyper-V is available on the Pro version, and BitLocker is available, only available on the Pro version. So I just wanted that extra flexibility of being able to have like more workstation functionality out of my build. So that's why I chose Windows 11 Pro. The next component I wanted to talk about was the motherboard. I went with the MSI X870 Gaming Plus Wi-Fi. The reason I went with that board specifically is one because of its PCIe Gen 5 support. The other board that I was actually that I had actually originally bought and then ended up returning didn't have PCIe support, PCIe 4 support. It is a board that I offer on my website as an option just because it's cheaper. Motherboards are really expensive, and I just want to give people an option of whether or not they want, the extra features that the X870 has to offer or not. It's still a board that I stand behind, and that I feel good. I feel fine putting into builds and selling to people. But if you're going to get a higher end graphics card, and I even put this recommendation on my site, if you're going to get a higher end graphics card, you probably want to consider upgrading your motherboard as well, because you won't get your full speed performance out of that. So anyway, the biggest reasons I picked this was because it has PCIe 5, and also because it has 5 gigabit Ethernet. That other board only has 2.5 gig Ethernet built in. I have 2 gig internet at my house, and I wanted to, in the future, if I ever want to upgrade my internet speed, which I probably will at some point in the future, then I have that option. I'm not painting myself into a corner where I have to either add a gigabit PCIe or a 10 gigabit PCIe card, or a 5 gigabit PCIe card, or upgrade the board. And so I wanted to kind of future proof it a little bit. So the next thing I want to talk about, I didn't mention CPU. I went with the Ryzen 9 9950X. Now, some people kind of question why I did this, if I was building a gaming computer, because I could have got the 9950 X3D, or I could have got the 7, I believe it's the 7800 or 7900, or I think it's the 9800 X3D or something like that. I don't remember the exact model number off the top of my head. But people are like, well, you should have either got the 7 3D or the 9 3D and spent extra money on your GPU. And normally that makes a lot of sense. But my rationale for getting the 9950X instead of the X3D was it's really good as a workstation chip. And it's pretty good at doubling as both a workstation chip and a good gaming chip too, because it has it's got a higher clock speed per core, which is really going to help you for workstation tasks. So I felt like for my use case, spending the extra $200 to get the 9950 X3D just wasn't worth the money, especially since I really like to use my machine as a workstation as well. I like to do, CPU and, RAM intensive tasks like running virtual machines and stuff like that. So I figured I would go really CPU heavy. And, I can always upgrade my graphics card in the future. And it's a whole lot easier to upgrade a graphics card than it is to, it's not really hard to upgrade a CPU. I just don't like doing it if I don't have to, just because there is risk associated with upgrading a CPU, especially since the pins are very finicky. It's not that it's difficult. It's just I would way rather swap a graphics card out than swap out a CPU. I don't like swapping CPUs out unless I absolutely have to. So the next thing I went with was memory. I decided to do Corsair Vengeance memory because Corsair is a pretty good brand, and I liked the price of it, and the model of RAM that's on MSI's QVL for both of the boards that I offer. They're all the RAM that I offer, which really worked out nicely. It's the same on both boards, or it's on the QVL for both boards. So that provides maximum stability. I went with 64 gigs, for pretty obvious reasons, just because, I'm doing a workstation build and everything like that, workstation / gaming build. And that extra RAM is really going to help, especially running my computer as a virtual machine. It gives me lots of options. Like if I want to run, Linux in a VM, I can give it like 16 gigs of RAM and like 2 to 4 cores, and not really have a problem. And if I have 16 cores, 32 threads, I'm going to have lots of, cores to play with. to give virtual machines, like Linux, especially like, I'm going to be doing like a lot of stuff with Kali Linux just because, I am trying to get into the cybersecurity field. Um, I'm going to be doing a lot of stuff with Kali Linux. And as a result, I really want to run that in a VM. Kali Linux is not very resource intensive. I mean, you could probably get away with a single core, but I usually just run it on like 2 cores and 8 gigs of RAM because it's plenty for Kali Linux. It's not that intense of an operating system. So I just like to be able to have all of that extra, headroom to play with, and that's, I feel for most people that are buying their computers specifically for gaming, probably really don't need any more than 32 gigs of RAM. I honestly struggled when I made my configuration options with whether I even wanted to do a 96 and 128 gigabyte option. But the more I thought about it, I'm like, the whole point of doing a custom build option is to give customers options. And because I don't have these parts on hand, because I build everything to order, uh, it's not like I have to buy these parts and they're just going to be sitting around somewhere and I have to wait for them to get sold. I order them as the PCs are ordered. So, it's one of those things where it's like if the customer wants it, I'll order it. If they don't want it, I won't. So it's really no skin off my back whether you go with 96 or 128 or not. And I feel like most customers, I would actually be really surprised if anytime in the near future I get anything more than 64 gigs of RAM ordered. I feel like most customers are going to go with 32, which there's a reason why I put that in the base configuration is because it's what I recommend. You technically can go lower on that board. You could do 8 gigs as single channel or 16 gigs as either dual or single channel. And, it's like I could bring the base cost down, but at the end of the day, it's like I don't want to sell stuff that I wouldn't feel good recommending to somebody else. So that's why I'm like, I'm just going to go with 32 as the minimum because that's what I think that, most gaming rigs need is a minimum of 32. But I say minimum like it's, I'm not saying minimum of 32 like it's a bad thing. I feel like 32 gigs is plenty. It's the minimum, and I feel like for most people, the maximum amount of RAM. So I did also want to talk about the light enhancement kit I bought for my computer. I have talked about this in my TikTok videos too, just to show it on my computer right here. As you can see, I only have 2 sticks of RAM, but I have 4. It looks like I have 4. 2 of the RAM sticks are light enhancement sticks from Corsair, and then 2 of them are regular RAM sticks, and obviously 2 sticks for stability, but the look of 4 sticks, it's kind of the both worlds. And that's another reason why I really like the Corsair Vengeance RAM is because it's really hard, and I actually haven't found any like dummy sticks that have RGB on them, or even really dummy sticks in general, that I can put into DDR5 slots, at least not for brands that are on this motherboard's QVL. I haven't really researched, like any of those off brands or anything, but as far as brands for this QVL, they're really hard to find, and I haven't been able to find them. I don't even know if they exist. I don't really think that dummy RAM is a really big thing, but it is something that I offer, and that is why I like the Corsair Vengeance RAM, is because it offers that option of having the light enhancement kit, which I just feel really completes the look of your computer, and it's a cheap option. It's $35. I feel like a lot of people are gonna go with this option just because it's a cheap thing to just tack on, and I feel like a lot of people won't also because they're not gonna really care, if they have that extra look or not, because it's a purely cosmetic thing. It doesn't really add any kind of functionality to your system at all. So I mean, it is what it is. I feel like it's kind of going to be 50-50 as whether people order it or not. So the next thing I want to talk about is obviously the biggest part is graphics card. Now, as you can see, in the box behind me, I should have moved that Ryzen 9 box out of the way, but that's okay. I went with the 5060 Ti. Now, again, I did spend a lot of money on my CPU, and keep in mind the 5060 Ti is still a $500 graphics card. It's not cheap at all. That's one reason why I went with it. It plays what I need to play just fine. I like to play games like Fallout 76. Let's see, what else do I play? I like to play Schedule One. Schedule One's pretty CPU bound anyway. It can play on. It can play pretty well on most graphics cards. Let me think here. I play Schedule One, PC Build Simulator, but that doesn't really need that good of a graphics card either. And actually, let me just go through my Steam library real quick. Let me open up Steam and kind of tell you guys what games on here that I actually play, just so that you have a good frame of reference as to the 5060 Ti and 2K. Let's see, Repo. I play that a lot with my friends, but that's not graphically intensive at all. 5060 or really any graphics card will handle that game just fine. No matter what settings you put it on. As long as it meets the game's minimum requirements, which I don't know off the top of my head, but it's pretty much you can run it on a potato. Let's see. I have played Kineto Pet before. That game's kind of interesting. Not a very intense game either. So Grand Theft Auto 5 plays that really well in 2K. That is an older game, obviously, but it plays well. I get lots of frames per second on it. And hello, Christopher. Good to see you. Do you have any questions for me? I'm just trying to talk just so that I'm not sitting here in an empty room not doing anything. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I'd be happy to answer them. Questions about either the builds that I offer, questions about PCs in general, or just questions about me, anything you want. So I didn't see you there in the chat before, so I apologize if you've been waiting for a while. Okay, so let me just go back through my Steam library here. So yeah, obviously, like I said, PC Building Simulator. Phasmophobia is one that I played quite a bit. I easily get 180 frames per second because that's just kind of where I cap it out on the NVIDIA app because that's what my monitor is at. Let's see. I've been trying to get into CSGO, but I haven't played that in a while. I was playing Destiny 2, but I stopped because I didn't realize you had to pay to continue playing it. I guess that's kind of on me. Let's see, and I do play Fallout 4, but that's a really old game. So yeah, I'm not really playing anything that's gonna require a ton of frames per second, and that's not crazy demanding. So for me, a 5060 Ti and 16 gigabytes is really, I think, just fine for what I need. And I probably could even get away with an 8 gigabyte graphics card, but I wanted at least 16 just because it just seems like 8 gigs isn't really enough these days. So that's why I went with a 16. And I went with a Zotac gaming card. I like the way that they look. And I like the Zotac app. I forgot what it's called. It's called like the Firestorm app or something like that. And the graphics cards are pretty reasonably priced. They're pretty easy to overclock. Good cards in general, good warranty, that kind of thing. So yeah, I think only one of the cards that I have on my website are Zotac Gaming, but that's just because there were cheaper options available for other cards, and I can't be, I don't want to be partial to one brand, even though I really like the Zotac cards. A lot of people, have different brand preferences, like Gigabyte, MSI, Asus. Just wanted to be able to offer a wide variety of brands, give my customers as much options as possible. So let's see here. So the other component I want to talk about was I'm just trying to look at my computer here. Yeah, my AIO. I don't have the box for that behind me because the box was huge, so I just threw it out. It's a pretty good AIO. Right now, this particular one, which I offer on my base configuration, is going for $75. The price has been really kind of fluctuating a lot on that, but I feel like it's a pretty good AIO. It usually runs my CPU at anywhere from like 40 to 60 degrees. Very rarely gets above like the mid 80s, even when I'm really hammering the CPU. I mean, even on OCCT, it doesn't even get anywhere near the 90s, which I feel like is pretty good for a cheaper AIO. It's not really that fancy either. It's literally just that's it. It's just got some RGB on the front. Nothing really fancy, just really no frills, just is an AIO. That's really all it does. So, I just feel like it doesn't. I'm not really into the builds that have like screens and everything and all that crazy stuff in them. I've never built one of those anyway. Maybe I will someday. I can't imagine they're that hard to build, but I'm just not really a big fan of them. I like having aesthetics, obviously, but I feel like it's better to spend more money on things that are actually useful for your machine than it is on aesthetics, with the exception of that light enhancement kit I was talking about earlier, because that's pretty much just an aesthetic choice. But I feel like it's one that's cheap and it makes a lot of sense. So yeah, NVMe I have, which I think is back there. Yeah, the WD Black. I bought it with the heatsink, which I feel like was a mistake. I shouldn't have done that. I don't offer any that come with a heatsink on them. And I bought that one with the heatsink. I was going through different motherboards, so I think that's really why I got one with a heatsink, is because I wasn't sure if my motherboard would come with a heatsink or not. All the motherboards that I sell in my configuration come with NVMe heatsinks, so it looks nicer, and it's it saves you money too, because it's like your motherboard already comes with a heatsink. Why pay extra for one? So what I ended up doing was I actually took the heatsink off. It's just a couple screws. Just took it off, threw it in that box behind me, and put the motherboard heatsink on it. So it's a much cleaner look. That's kind of another aesthetic move that I think makes a lot of sense. Is it doesn't cost anything extra, and it helps your NVMe stay cooler. Obviously, I'm sure that factory one that came with it probably works a little bit better than my motherboard one, but it's one of those things where it's like, I just wanted to take it off because it just looked really stupid with just the NVMe hanging here, and then it has its own heatsink on it, and then I have to look at the little mounting hardware for the motherboard heatsink when it wasn't there, and it's like, it just looks dumb, So I figured, NVMe's don't get that hot. So I think that the difference between they do get hot enough to need a heatsink, but I feel like the difference just between the factory one and the one that comes on my motherboard is pretty negligible. So that's why I decided to take the heatsink off. So the other component I want to talk about is my power supply. I went with a Cooler Master, and this was actually after, believe me, a lot of researches went into these builds, and a lot of trial and error really went into this PC. But I ended up going with the Cooler Master MWE Gold 850 version 3. And the reason I did was just because, Cooler Master is a pretty widely recognized brand. I was already getting a Cooler Master AIO too, so I figured, why not? Power supply is really one of those things that nobody sees, so it really doesn't matter what brand you get. As far as like the aesthetics of the computers, the aesthetics of the computer goes, but there's a lot of really bad power supplies out there, a lot of really bad ones. And I definitely could offer cheaper ones for my bill, but I really don't want to go down the path of offering bad power supplies that are, could cause electrical problems or could fail really soon. Because even though it wouldn't be my fault that the power supply fails, I still sold it to them. And if I sold them something that I don't stand behind, I do feel like that is on me. And perception is reality when it comes to customer service. So if they perceive that I sold them a bad product, whether it was my fault or not, it's my fault, Yeah, and that's how customers perceive it, and that's going to be their reality when they choose whether or not to buy from you again, or whether or not to recommend you to somebody else. So power supplies, I feel like, are one of those things where, you don't need to spend in, don't get me wrong, you don't need to spend an insane amount of money on them, but you shouldn't cheap out on them either. I could have got I could have saved 10, 15 bucks, got a cheaper power supply, like maybe a Chinese one or something, or like Gamer Storm. That seems like one that's prominent on Amazon, but I've heard a lot of really bad things about those. And it's one of those components where it's just really not worth it to save a couple bucks when it's something that can affect the safety of your computer and the reliability of it. Bad power supplies can cause performance issues as well. They don't regulate voltage well enough. Okay, so enough about the power supply. Power supplies aren't that interesting. The last thing, I think it's the last thing. Yeah, the last thing I want to talk about was my backup storage. Now, I wanted my general rule of thumb with backup storage, and this is just my rule of thumb. I'm not really basing this off of anything other than just my own personal preference. My general rule of thumb is you should have twice as much, at least twice as much hard disk storage as you have NVMe storage for your backup drive, or solid state storage in general for your backup drive. So I have a 4 terabyte NVMe, so I got an 8 terabyte hard drive. Now, the drives that I put in my computer and that I offer for all my builds are the Seagate Iron Wolf drive, with the exception of the 2.5 inch drives. I'm talking about the 3.5 inch drives. It's the Seagate Iron Wolf drive. And I got the Iron Wolf drive because, like its name would suggest, it's a very durable drive. It's a NAS drive, and if you don't know what NAS means, it just means network attached storage. It's designed to be written to and read from 24/7. So it's designed to always be spinning, always be reading and writing, just get constant wear and tear on it. And I figured, hey, if you're putting it into a PC that doesn't require constant reading and writing, you're really only going to be backing up to it on a fixed interval. If you even do a backup at all, you might just use it as extra storage. It's going to last a really long time, and it's going to be a very robust backup solution. Now, these are a little bit more expensive than like just a regular 3.5 inch drive, but I offer them in my builds because I stand behind them. I use a Seagate Iron Wolf in my own build. You can kind of see the box for it back there. It's that box over here. It's that red and white one. I use it on my own build. I have an 8 terabyte, and all of them except for, I believe, except for the 4 terabyte version, are 7,200 RPM. So they're also faster drives. They're built really well. They have a lot of cache on them. Also, just really good drives in general. I mean, and yeah, they cost a little bit more, and I understand that, And I mean, if somebody wants to just not add an extra drive and just wants to go buy their own, I'm totally cool with that. Because, like I said, I don't make any extra money off of the parts anyway. I just like to sell high quality parts that I stand behind, and that's really why I have a base configuration. So that if you want to not add a component and you just want to maybe buy it and then put your own in, more than welcome to do that. I totally support that. Totally support, putting anything you want. You could buy it without a graphics card if you want, because the base configuration doesn't have a graphics card. Buy it without a graphics card, put your own graphics card in. That's totally okay too. Now, one thing with the graphics card is I did kind of struggle with this, is my base configuration does not have a graphics card in it. And the reason I struggled with this is because I wanted to make it so that, okay, the base configuration has a graphics card, but at the same time, it was one of those decisions where it's like, okay, if I make the base configuration with a graphics card, I'm going to have to make the base configuration with something like a cheap graphics card, like the 5050 Ti, or not, I'm sorry, not 5050 Ti, excuse me, the RTX 5050. There's no such thing as a 5050 Ti. I'm going to have to put something in it like a 5050. And oh, hello, looks like we have another viewer. Good to have you here. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Anyway, I'd have to put something cheap in, like a 50-50, and not that there's anything wrong with a 50-50 necessarily. Obviously, it's a really low end graphics card, but that's kind of the problem, is it's a really low end graphics card, and I didn't want to have people choose that as like, I didn't want to have that be like, oh, that's the default, and have people just pick the default, the default just because, oh, they don't really know a lot about graphics cards, and it's just like, oh well, that's the default card, so I'm just going to go with that. And that's kind of one reason why I did integrated graphics. And I even have a note on there saying, hey, if you're using this computer for gaming, don't do integrated graphics. It's just here just so that you can pick your own. It's just integrated graphics is just the standard, just so that you can choose whatever you want in your own build or bring your own graphics card. And it forces you on the website to choose a graphics card, and you can choose integrated graphics. But again, I put on there, I don't recommend it. And it's because I don't recommend it at all. I don't recommend, if you're going to use your computer as a gaming rig, to have integrated graphics on it. Even if you're using it as a workstation, I wouldn't recommend integrated graphics really. But that's your choice to make. I'm not going to make it for you. You can do whatever you want. I support whatever decision that you make. But I just have to let customers know that, especially ones that don't really know a lot about computers, is that don't go with integrated graphics if you're going to use this for gaming, because you're probably not going to have a very good time. Now, to be fair, though, at least with the 9950X, what I have in my computer, the integrated Radeon graphics are actually not that bad. I mean, don't get me wrong, they really can't play like AAA games at really any respectable frame rate. But, if you're doing light gaming on it, it's not that bad. It's not good, but it's not that bad really. So, I mean, you could do light gaming on the integrated graphics. I still wouldn't recommend it. I mean, if you're just doing light gaming, I would still recommend at least going with the cheapest graphics card I have on there at the bare minimum. But again, that's up to you. Maybe you have, maybe you just want to have somebody build the rest of the computer for you, and you've got an older graphics card. You've got like a 3080 or something lying around, which is great graphics card, and you want to save some money. By all means, I think that's a great option, and that's something I would do. So this video's kind of gone on pretty long. I'm probably gonna be wrapping it up soon, because we haven't had a lot of viewers. We've only had six views, which it really, I mean, is better than zero. I mean, that's 6 views I didn't have yesterday, so I'm perfectly fine with that. Every view matters, and I appreciate everybody who stepped in, even if it was just for a couple seconds. Appreciate the heck out of you. And I even have 1 like on here, and I'm really grateful for that. So I guess I do need to talk about the case on this computer. The case is, I think, one that nobody's really ever heard of before. It's the Feufken F1. And the only reason I offer it is because, again, I use it on my build, and I'm really happy with it. It's a cheap case. The price really goes all over the place with this case, which is kind of hard to keep up the prices on my computers when the price of parts jumps around so much, especially with something like like the case. But I feel like it's a really good value. I mean, usually it ranges from like $65 to like $90. And I feel like you really are getting a lot of value. It comes with 6 fans. So it comes with, well, it was supposed to come with that back fan. It didn't. I didn't realize it was supposed to come with that back fan, and I ordered another one instead of just contacting their customer service, but it only cost me like $20, so it's whatever. But it's supposed to come with these bottom 3 fans, these side fans right here, and then a rear fan. Those top 3 fans right there, those are just for the AIO. So those don't actually come with it. Those are just going to be whatever's on your AIO will be on your build. But so it comes with 6 fans. They're already all daisy chained together, which is really nice because daisy chaining fans together is kind of a pain if you've never done it before. And I actually did get to a point where I actually took all of the fans, just disconnected all of the fans and re-daisy chained them together, just so I knew how to do it if I had to do it at some point. It's really not fun to do. I'll tell you that. So I'm really glad that this case does have them pre-daisy chain together. Really, other than that, when you get the fans, all you really have to do after that is just plug them into the RGB header, and plug them into power, plug them into the RGB header, and you're good to go. That. So I don't know if most cases are like that or not. I don't buy a lot of PC cases because I haven't really made a lot of gaming PCs. Hopefully I'll be making a lot pretty soon. I did want to give customers more options though, so I have a variety of cases on there. There's a few of them that are the same or very, very close in price to this one, that I offer for no extra charge if you want to go with that one instead of this case. But I do really like this case. I think it looks good. It's not like anything. There's no like anything like completely overkill or anything insane on it. So it's just a regular mid tower case. It's a pretty good price, and I think the biggest complaint I have with it is it is pretty hard to cable manage it. But other than that, I think it's a good case, and obviously because it's a mid tower, it blocks that third PCIe port, but that's not really the case's fault. It's just its form factor that it's a mid tower case, and all of the cases that I currently offer are mid towers. I might offer a full tower configuration in the future, but I feel like mid towers are much more popular, and they're going to be cheaper to ship. So for now, I'm just going to stick with mid towers. But yeah, I mean, I hide the cables on it pretty well. There are some that are still visible, like that back one for the fan right there. You can kind of see that, but because everything is black in here, it kind of blends in. Down here, it's really hard to see, which is good. But there are fan wires. That one's kind of pretty visible right there. I kind of need to open it back up and kind of tuck that away a little bit more. But just along the edge down here, there's actually all kinds of wires, and they're really hard to see unless you're just like really, really looking for them. So yeah, I do think that this still looks pretty clean and everything. And yeah, you can kind of see those wires in the back. That's why I said this case is kind of hard to cable manage. But I definitely will do my best to cable manage any of the cases. So, I was about to wrap it up. Oh, looks like the viewer went away. That's okay. But yeah, so I'm going to be wrapping it up here. I'll probably stay on for another minute or two just in case a viewer decides to pop in. I can answer their questions. I can say hi, whatever they want to do. But yeah, I'm going to be wrapping it up here. I just wanted to say thank you, really, a really big thank you to everybody who dropped in and watched, even just for a couple seconds. Really big thanks to whoever liked the video. I really appreciate it. You don't know how much that means to me. And 6 views, I'm over the moon about that. Really, I am. 6 views is more than I expected. Expected to have maybe 1 or 2, but yeah, 6 views is really great, and I appreciate everybody who has listened to me ramble on, and everybody who supports my business, even if you don't buy anything, by watching this video, by visiting my website, by checking out my affiliate links. You're supporting my business. So, supporting a business goes well beyond making a purchase. There are other ways to support it too. And it really does help me out. I really do appreciate it. And I'm very grateful for it. So that's about it. It doesn't look like anybody's on here right now. Yeah. So I'm going to end the stream, and I will try to get on next week. So see you guys.